This is JMD Mateus, and you're listening to Into the Night, a Moon Knight podcast.
Yes, welcome back, loony listeners. You are listening to Into the Night, the Moon Knight podcast. This is episode 226. And as always, you're with the High Priest of Khonshu, Ray. G'day. And significant, that greeting to you, because joining me tonight is another fellow Australian, a huge Moon Knight fan. And it's Andrew Shaw. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me to talk about my favourite comic book character.
I can't wait to rip into these episodes ahead. Now, Andrew is joining us for an idle chat at this episode at the top of the week, of course, and we'll be looking at Moon Knight's fighting skill. Now, Andrew, I got a bit of positive feedback and input from the loonies in our community. So I don't know. It seems like people are interested in this. It's always a bit of fun to kind of weigh your favourite against others. But we'll get into that. It will be a discussion describing Moon Knight's fighting skills compared to other Marvel characters. So not necessarily a one-on-one versus, but just where Mooney fits in that kind of sliding scale of, hand-to-hand combat. I'm kind of more interested in, do away with the powers and all that. So we'll get into that, of course. Now, before anything, our fantastic sponsors, a big shout out to our gracious patronies, listed as co-producers and executive producers on each of the episodes. A little bit later, I'll give you the details to check out our Patreon page. A big welcome to our latest patroni, Michael Siebert, who's on our Frenchie tier. So a big welcome, Michael. Thank you so much for contributing and throwing some coin our way. So a big thanks, as always, to Daniel, Justin, Derek, Kyle, Wayne, Jordan, Josh, James, Anthony, and Michael. Thanks, every one of you. Of course, A Fringe Knight by Daniel, doing an original indie comic based on Erie, Pennsylvania's very own mysterious superhero, and our two other custodian sponsors, Hello Headphones, empowering gamers to play at their best, and Dreamland Comics, the superhero superstore. Now, Andrew, before we get into it, I just want to, I think it'd be really cool if you let the loonies out there, those listeners, know, I guess, your affiliation with Moon Knight, but also your connection with comics, i.e. comic book writing, things that you may have done, have in the wings. It's exciting stuff. Yeah,
well, I've been a comic fan most of my life and grew up. We had a little newsagent, which, the Australians would know what a news agency was, but I think it's almost like a drugstore, but it's more for just like magazines and playing cards and to play the lotto over here. And there was just this tiny little rack of comics, and that was where I first started reading comics out of there. And I think the first comic I ever bought was Spider-Man 2099 number 3, which I only picked up probably a couple of years ago, and funnily enough remembered pretty much every word of the issue, because I reckon I read it cover to cover 1,000 times as a kid. But I didn't come across Moon Knight until a lot later down the track, when I was old enough and had enough disposable income for myself to be able to buy comics again. And I think we talked about it a little bit when we did Werewolf by Night, and it was my first issue of Moon Knight was number 20 in the modern run that started with the I can never remember the guy's name.
That was Mike Benson, wasn't it?
It was Benson. That's right. It was Deodato Jr. on art, and it was. I like werewolves. Werewolves are my favorite monster. And I saw the cover and I went, "It's a cool looking superhero, and there's a werewolf involved. Let's do it." And so that was it. And it happened to have the reprint of the first appearance in it at the back too.
Right.
And from then on, I was sold. I went and I tracked down as many issues of Moon Knight as I could find after that. And it was around that time too, like we were saying, I started to get into writing comics as well. And I've written a few, mostly for anthologies, for certain anthologies. Like there was one we did that was called This Nightmare Kills Fascists, which was around the political time when Trump was looking like he was going to be taking over as the president. And a few of my friends in America decided to put an anthology together, and we threw one that. And I look in the talent in that. Like, it's got people like Christopher Sabella and Matt Miner and all these other people. And I see my story in there and I go, I don't know if I'm worthy to be in this book with this bunch of people. Like, it was
of course,
just,
why not?
Imposter syndrome at its best. But I put out an anthology with a friend of mine called Will Playton, who lives in country New South Wales. And we put an anthology together called Cul-de-sac, which is, I'm a big horror fan as well. I love my horror movies and my horror comics. And, you know, I don't read a lot of Japanese comics, but I will read anything that Junji Ito puts out, which
I've heard,
everyone
lauds him and say that he's just the master of it. Yeah, I've got to read some. Yeah.
Oh, he makes the mundane terrifying.
Wow.
Like, there's stuff in his books that you just go, but this is also a man who writes a comic about his cats, which is not a horror story. It's just about how much he loves his cats. So it's like such a very big difference. But we put together a book called Cul-de-sac. It's set in the 50s in Australia. It goes from house to house in a little gated community, and it sort of plays on the idea of you don't know what your neighbours are doing behind closed doors. And you were gracious enough to buy a copy off me, and which was I do really appreciate and thank you. And it was a lot of fun, and all the art in it is hand painted. So Will took 3 years to hand paint the art, and it was worth it though. By the end of it, like it's a gorgeous book. It came out so well, and we're so proud of it.
Yeah, I tell you, it shows like three years worth of art. It's fantastic. Horror, for sure. I mean, like, having followed you recently on Twitter as well, I see a few tweets about, or actually on Facebook, I can't remember, one of them, where you kind of post about horror movies and should I see this? And so, yeah, I've kind of gauged that. And yes, listeners, I did pick up a copy of Cul-de-sac from you, Andrew, as well. And look, I don't read that many horror comics, but it's like, whoa, my God. I didn't really, I absolutely had nothing. I had no idea what to expect. And it was good. I guess, you know, after just flicking through it, reminded that it was an anthology, but there are these like little vignettes of these stories that just really wacky. Can I ask, all of them are like really mind-boggling. Can I ask that one, the second one with the bat? By any chance, was that influenced by maybe a dream you had? It just seems like it was so kind of surreal that it must have been something that I thought maybe you had a dream or a nightmare of and thought, okay, I've got to write this as a story.
It not so much a dream. It was more just like when we were writing the book, or when I was writing the book, and Will and I were bouncing ideas off each other. I was working night shift at the same time, and so we sort of. He'd be up drawing at 2:00 in the morning, and I'd be at work at 2:00 in the morning, and we'd be sitting there bouncing ideas off each other. Yeah. And it was sort of this thing where he sort of mentioned that he was more like, it was, you know, we talked about the play on your neighbours, you don't know what they're doing. And it was, what if we talk about a little kid, like he said, you know, as a kid, you're so curious. Yeah. And you might go stick your head, oh, look, what are your neighbours doing? You know, something's going on out there. And it's literally that the neighbours catch him staring and they come after him. And it rolled from there. And then I originally had it as lizard people. Okay. But Will had just drawn a book with lizards in it, and he goes, I've always wanted to draw a bat person ever since people like Morbius and Baron Blood and things like that. And Man Bat as the other one. And then so he's like, let's just do it. Let's do a bat story instead. And it was, you know, so a lot of the ideas were collaborative, where I would start with an idea, I'd throw it over to Will. He would say, what about this, this, and this? And we'd bounce the ideas back and forth. And so it sort of came from there. And then a lot of it, you know, you've got like the back of the book with the Luna Park picture as well was something we looked at, like a post-nuclear apocalypse world. And, you know, we thought of the ideas of what's iconic with Melbourne and New South Wales, because we've got a Luna Park. There's a Luna Park in Sydney, and there's that big mouth.
Yes, and sorry for US and overseas listeners, it's just like an iconic like amusement park. Coney Island, I guess I'm really just reaching here, but yeah. Yeah,
Coney Island's probably the best one because it's been around for hundreds of years, or like you know, at least 100 years. It's, you know, like even the one in Melbourne has a roller coaster that is so rickety and old that you sort of get on and you go, I don't know if this is safe.
This is where the thrill comes in. You know? Is it going to hold up?
It's not crazy ride where you do loops and everything, but it's more, we're going to go around a corner and we're going to fly off into the beach. This is interesting.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, I only asked that. It's just because it just really threw me, that particular story. And all of the stories are great listeners as well. But just the fact, the ending with the little kid, I just thought that was just, my God, like, I can imagine like little Ray when I was young having like a dream like that, and that being the most terrifying thing. Like, because the ending, it's not happy. Let's just say that, listeners. So, I don't wanna, so yeah, it's like the most kind of terrifying thing as a little kid. But there are plenty of fantastic stories in there, Andrew, as well. And I urge, so is this, I mean, we'll put all this in the show notes. Would it still be available, digital or otherwise, if others want to pick it up?
Definitely. It's on Comixology. As digital, but we also have, I have several boxes still full of the print issues. So best way if you want to buy one is to just hit me up on Twitter or Instagram or something and let me know, and I can get it out to you. We had an Etsy store at one point, but it was costing us to send stuff out, like the fees on top of what we were already charging. Yep. And as you would know too, because I'm assuming you buy stuff from the States and things like that, shipping is ridiculous. It's so unfair.
Stupid. Yeah.
Yeah. At one point we were looking at the books. A print copy is $15, and at one point I had a couple of people from America wanting to buy it. And we were looking at paying $30 just to ship it. So people were paying $45 for a book that's $15. Like, it was just insane. It's not, and it's not fair. And so it's sort of, a few times I had some friends doing conventions over there, so I said to them, if anybody wants a copy, let me know. Everyone chip in $5 for shipping, and I sent a box of them over. Like, it was, a deal like that. Yeah,
that's a good way. I mean, like, there are a couple of Kickstarters that I like to support, and they're of overseas artists, and it always frustrates me because I'd like to get, the more premium tiers, like where you kind of get the hardcovers and stuff, but I can't because I'm paying like almost twice as much in shipping than the actual product itself. So I actually end up having to get like a modest one, like, just as a softback or something. But it will cost me an extra 30, 40 bucks or something. It's like,
it's crazy.
Cool. Yeah. Anyway, I mean, Loonies, you're listening to two Aussies here. So, this is right up our goats. So, not only that, Andrew, we don't even have, I always say it on the show as well. We don't even have those bargain bins. The $2 bins in comic book stores where people pick up, like, I've heard loonies, like, just, I waltzed in and I picked up like half the whole run of Mark Spector Moon Knight. Oh yeah, because that was like a quarter each. It's like, what?
Yeah, like, come on.
It's like $7,
I think I paid $3 an issue for those.
Oh, well, okay, well, yeah, exactly. Even that, so.
But even some of those issues you go, $3, I don't know.
Well, the tail end, they're all where the Exy ones are, but there you're kind of wondering, why?
Anyway. You're not buying them for the storyline by that point.
No. Although, I've got to say, we did have, I will name drop, we did have Terry Kavanagh on, so I've got to, props to him. He's a great writer. He's good. Anyway, let's kind of crack into it. There's a little bit of Moon Knight news. Just briefly, and this is kind of rumored. I think it's on the Ronin website, so apologies, I don't know how reputable that is. But it has mentioned that in the article that we potentially will see Sharon Carter in the Moon Knight TV series, which is pretty cool. And there's a French actor, Loic Mabanza. He's been spotted in and around the set. So whether or not he has a big role, a little role, or any role at all is a bit of speculation. But I don't know. Looking at, there's a visual of him in the prom sheet there, Andrew. Any things to kind of wet the whistle there as to who he might be, or?
Yeah, it depends on, I guess, if he's going to play a villain or a hero, or if he's going to be just somebody, like he could be, if he's a French actor, he may be Frenchy.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or he could be Bushman. You just don't know. Like, he is a African Frenchman. So he could be Bushman in there. You just don't know. And that's the best part of this sort of thing, is that you speculate until he pops up on screen. So it just makes me even more excited to see MK on the big screen.
Yeah. Any issues or any shortcomings you'd think with having him as Frenchie? is not unseen in a lot of Disney Plus or MCU stuff where characters are, changed a little. But would you like to see the more traditional Frenchie, or would you be happy if he was like Frenchie?
Oh, no problem. I think the best actor for the job. So if he's already, it would be better than, say, like I know Ethan Hawke is going to be in the show. It would be better than Ethan Hawke showing up as Frenchie, putting on a French accent and, having the sort of French accent going on, where you get a guy who's already got a French accent. Well, why would you muck around? Yeah,
I think so too. I mean, they say, to promote diversity and all that. And I was speaking to some loonies as well. They're saying, well, the Moon Knight cast is quite diverse as it is. But regardless of that, I wouldn't mind if there's no reason why Frenchie, apart from being French, has to be any particular kind of appearance. You know what I mean? So exactly. I think it's absolutely fine. We'll have to see. This is uncoupled with, I'm not sure if you heard, Andrew, as well. They were looking for someone. There was casting news for a French person, but to take on a bit more of a comedic role. And that kind of drew a lot of red flags for loonies, thinking, oh gosh, are they turning Frenchie into the comic relief? I'm not sure how you feel about that. Personally, I was like, oh, that's a bit of a stretch.
Yeah.
But, it depends. I mean, it depends on how willing you are to let your beloved characters change for the small screen. I guess it's a bit of a chop and change. Sharon Carter there as well. Had you watched Falcon and Winter Soldier, and have you seen Sharon Carter, I guess, in the movies as well?
Yeah, we've only seen, I think, the first 3 episodes of Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Okay.
Whenever the episode that she shows up in, I think it was 3, might be 3 or 4, but I can't remember. Okay. But we've done Scarlet Witch, WandaVision, and we've finished Loki as well. And but what makes me happy, what makes me excited about that as well, is that they're not just going to have him as a standalone, his Moon Knight show, but he's away from everybody else. If Sharon Carter's showing up, that means they're embracing him and they're bringing him into the MCU, and that makes me happy. Like this is a character that we've. There was a mention of him in the Blade TV show all those years ago, and that's it. And for us Moon Knight fans, like it's. And he's had so many times, so many books that have had short shrift because of, various reasons. Yeah. And so to see him, to actually get his own TV show, like it was, I do remember we were in America when they announced that they were doing it at D23. We were at Disneyland at the time, actually.
Wow, really?
And
okay.
So we're sitting there and I've got friends who know I'm a big Moon Knight fan, so my phone just started going bananas. Yeah. I'm like, what's going on? And I'm looking at it's like they waited for me to get to Disneyland to announce it at the Disney convention. It's great.
I know. That's cool. I've asked other people on the show as well. It's almost like, where were you when the announcement was made? Because it was such a big moment. And I think many of them can recall. I mean, I remember as well, just quickly, because the loonies have heard this before, but I was just walking and a couple of the loonies were just texting me madly. And it was about, I think over in Australia, it was about, I don't know, mid-morning to maybe towards midday. And Tommy, one of our original loony listeners, he texted me, he goes, Ray, did you hear the news? I'm going, no, what? Because I was walking around the shopping centre, just like, oh no, they've announced Moon Knight at D23. And it was like New Year's Eve, seriously. It was like, that elation. And it was like, so I just spent the next, 4 or 5 hours just scrolling on the internet, just trying to get some sort of information. It was fantastic. But well, I'm not going to spoil anything with Sharon Carter then. But needless to say, exactly as you mentioned, I think it's great that they are embracing it, because Moon Knight can be seen as, even in the comics, he's always on a little bit of the outer. He's always a little bit on his own, whether that's him or whether it's through circumstance. So, it is kind of nice to see. I was excited to see Sharon Carter part of it. She's kind of, shall I say, not like big enough. She's not like Captain America or something to thing, but she's got that nice little thread to the universe, and it makes sense as well. So, if you've seen 3 episodes of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, it's more of that kind of. I don't know, what do you call it, secret agents kind of thing, and more CIA stuff, which they were speculating in the article, Sharon's ties to the CIA. We know Mark Spector worked in the CIA at some point as well, so that all makes sense. So pretty cool indeed. Anyway, Nothing confirmed as always, because Disney Plus never announced anything.
No, no.
We only got Oscar Isaac officially announced, like, when everyone kind of knew it already. So
yeah,
it was
worst kept secret in Hollywood.
Exactly. So we'll just have to stay tuned there.
You belong to the Merry Marvel.
Anyone hear us?
This is Trey Lawson.
And I'm James Hickson.
Anyone can hear this broadcast. We need your help.
We've been kidnapped and imprisoned in a tomb by this creepy old undertaker named Mr. Gravely.
And he's forcing us to review his collection of Marvel horror comics. Stuff like Tomb of Dracula,
Werewolf by Night,
Man-Thing,
Ghost Rider,
and so much more.
Forcing us to record these reviews as a podcast called The Tomb of Ideas.
If you can hear this, please contact our families. Call the authorities. Anyone. Tell them we can be found at...
Now, boys. Let's not give too much away. You can find James and Trey every other Wednesday at the Tomb of Ideas, a Marvel horror podcast. A proud member of the Cinepunks podcast group. See you there, Tomb Believers.
The Merry Marvel Marching Society.
Hey everyone, this is Phil
And Lulu.
of the Capes and Lunatics podcast,
You're listening to Into the Night.
the Moon Knight podcast.
Right, Loonies, well, let's get into, and Andrews, well, let's get into this Moon Knight's fighting skills versus others. I'm very keen to hear what you have to say. I know, as an overview then, I'll throw it to you then. Moon Knight's fighting skills, what do you understand Moon Knight to be like, and who would you compare him to?
Well, having read, as you would have yourself read pretty much everything that Moon Knight's been in, he's a mercenary, he was trained with the CIA, so he's going to have a decent level of hand-to-hand combat. Mm-hmm. But it always, when I saw that this was, what a thing we're going to talk about, it reminds me of in the Charlie Houston run when he fights Taskmaster in the first 2 issues. And Taskmaster says, I don't like copying your fighting style because you've never seen a punch you wouldn't take rather than dodge it. Like he'd rather get hit by a punch and roll with it rather than dodging a punch, or, say someone like Daredevil or Black Panther would be able to block and deflect. Whereas Moon Knight takes the hit and keeps going, and they show him as a boxer in there as well, and they show him, his hand-to-hand skills. He's obviously he can use nunchucks, he can use bow staff, he can use Cali sticks is what I used to call them when I did martial arts with them. Like this, little hand,
the truncheons. Oh yeah,
that's them.
Yeah.
And so he's got throwing stars. Like even without the weapons, he seems to be up there with not you're looking with the street level sort of heroes. So you're talking like you're like a Shang-Chi or a Punisher or someone, or Daredevil, people like that. It's he's up there. I wouldn't say he's one of the best ones because it sounds like he when you've read a lot of Moon Knight, he gets his butt kicked a fair bit as well.
He does.
So
and sometimes when you don't expect it as well. So
yeah. So I wouldn't say he's one of the elite ones, but he's definitely up there, and he's definitely can hold his own against a lot of heroes. A lot of villains. Yeah. Yeah,
heroes or villains. Let's face it. Well, I mean, exactly as you say. Look, I've ripped off some of these things from the Marvel fandom thing. So what gets me, as you're saying, he's a heavyweight boxer. So he's a pretty big fella, but he's also, as it states in the official Marvel wiki entry, he is an Olympic-level athlete and skilled acrobat and gymnast. So that's pretty, if he's a heavyweight, so if you imagine someone like Muhammad Ali being able to, to fly and flip, and that's pretty damn impressive,
I don't picture Mike Tyson doing backflips.
Yeah, exactly. Mike Tyson or Lennox Lewis. But also added to the fact though, he may be able to do that, but he may not be the quickest. You know what I mean? So if you compare him to like obviously Daredevil or Spider-Man, he wouldn't be that kind of quick. And yeah, he's got all that backing. What have I got here? As you said, former heavyweight boxer. He was I think he was discharged in the Marines, CIA, that sort of stuff, was a merc. He's got all their hand-to-hand combat abilities, skilled in various martial arts. Unlike another guy who we try not to mention, we only get to mention once in this show, Batman, before I start bleeping it out, who apparently apparently knows all the martial arts or something. I don't know, but Moon Knight,
every single one. Yeah.
I know, yeah, right. So Moon Knight's got at least boxing, judo. Do you know these ones? Krav Maga.
Yeah, Krav Maga is I think it's Israeli.
Okay,
and from what I know of it, it's a lot of you hit the soft spots. So you're looking at eyes, throat, groin, sort of. Wow. It's nasty. Yeah, it's a really good self-defense one because it's more like your attacker. So you hit poke the eyes, hit the throat, strike the groin, and you can get away, sort of thing. Like it's a mean one.
Actually, I'm so glad that actually you are on the show because you do have that fighting background knowledge, right? The Brazilian.
Yeah, I did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Yeah, I've got a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I've got a green belt. This is from many years ago in Japanese Jiu-Jitsu as well, which is a lot of throws and locks and stuff. So it's a hobby, and it's. As I get a little bit older, it's a bit harder to do because you don't recover as well as you used to in your 20s. But I love it. And I just like the idea of martial arts. I like to learn about them, as not even study them, but more like know of them as well.
Yep. Oh, excellent. I mean, well, that Krav Maga sounds pretty good. The other one's Silet, Dambe, Savate. I know Savate is the kicking, isn't it?
Batroc. Yeah, Batroc the leaper.
Batroc. Yeah, Batroc. Eskrima, I've never heard of that. Karate, Muay Thai, and Kung Fu. So, he's not masters of these. So again, if you compare him to, say, Shang-Chi or Iron Fist, he's not a master of Kung Fu. He knows them, Moon Knight here. Now, the other comparison, which is interesting, you mentioned him Punisher. I find them a very similar, ground. Punisher's not... I wouldn't call him a fantastic kind of fighter, but he's got the military training and all that. He's got the ruthlessness and he's got the pain resistance similar to Moon Knight. Apparently his pain threshold is very high, for a human being, same like Moon Knight as well. Now again, you got to argue the fact of, I'd rather take a punch than defend it. Arguably, is that a smart thing to do? But,
that's how you build up the CTE. That's how you get that concussion. The concussion dementia by the end of your career. By then, that's the punch drunk is a lot of the old boxers get. You lose a bit after a while. I'd rather move out of the way of a punch than take one. That's for sure.
Exactly. Especially when you only have like a hoodie and a mask in front of you. So, and apparently, I think the big one. I mean, we're talking hand-to-hand combat, but apparently, Moon Knight's he's a weapons master, so he's adept. It says with nearly every weapon ever invented. So that's pretty impressive.
It's a lot of weapons.
It is a lot of weapons, and he's, give him a bagpipe. What's he like? I could this is
take you apart with this butter knife.
Yeah, exactly. And interestingly enough, as well, I mean, I don't know if we put him in the level with Hawkeye or Bullseye, but he's a master marksman. It was noted here as well, Andrew, though, and you may recall in the Warren Ellis run, he did slice a bullet in half with a crescent dart. So that's got to be pretty impressive, right?
Yeah, I bet you can't do it twice, though.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. It's probably a huge fluke.
Yeah. I reckon you could just see, I could picture him, he throws it, splits the bullet, and everyone just sort of goes, and even Moon Knight stops and goes, whoa.
Holy shit, that was good.
Oh, man.
Pretend like you meant it. Yeah. Pretend like you meant it.
Yeah, I meant that, man. What are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, he's up there. And what I've also included in this prompt sheet as well, Andy, you've probably seen, they've got all these power levels and stuff. So, look, if we're going to be total geek, we might as well go full ball.
Go for it.
So, Moon Knight, it's got his fighting skills, and I'm only really interested in the fighting skill. He's got level 4. Okay, fair enough. 4 out of, I think, 7 is the top. Mm-hmm. So you got Moon Knight on 4. You've got Daredevil on 5, which is very interesting because I would have put him up around 6 or 7. Daredevil, trained by stick, you know,
Yeah.
and the hand, the ninja, he's pretty up. I reckon he's up there. Like, we'll get to some loony feedback, but people were saying, yeah, I reckon Moon Knight and Daredevil are on. I think Daredevil's probably a bit in a league above.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because Moon Knight for me is very much similar to the Punisher, and interestingly enough, here the Punisher, the fighting skill, he's got a 6 in this rating, which I don't agree with. I would put him down up there with 4. There's no way he's got better skills than Daredevil, but
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, I mean he can take a punch, but I don't think his skills, the accuracy, that sort of stuff. Shang-Chi 7, which is understandable. Look, I got Black Widow 6, which I think is pretty fair.
Yeah.
And now I threw in this other one, and like, I got some responses for this. I really only meant it to be like an example, because I was trying to get away from your typical Iron Fist, Daredevil, Punisher, you know, Captain America. So I just threw out the name Cyclops because, you know, he's known for his optic blasts, right? But really, how good is he hand to hand? Because, you know, you take away that. He got a rating of 4. So I reckon they're probably on par, but I think the toughness for Moon Knight will probably win out. You know, him
Yeah, I think so.
just being a crazy, you know, never say die guy. I think he would edge out Cyclops. Are there any other characters, any other random ones you're thinking of? You can think of, Andrew, that would put up a good show against Moon Knight when it came hand to hand.
Well, I mean, like, there's people like, you know, got like your Night Thrasher who has his truncheons as well, you know, similar sort of thing, but he also fights with a skateboard, so he's, you know, I don't know.
He's meant to be pretty good though. So yeah. I reckon Mooney could take him. Let's just say.
True. You know, like there's Black Panther. We all know that he is just a a ridiculous martial artist, and you know, but he also has the suit, which seems to do everything for him anyway. You know, whereas Moon Knight's just a normal suit. Yeah.
True.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of who else is around.
I mean, what you think as well, I mean, you mentioned Taskmaster. There are also these other blips in history in Moon Knight canon. Like, Moon Knight's beaten Deadpool. You'd not think that he could beat Deadpool, right? He's a pretty... I'd rate Deadpool up there, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
He would have to be up there with maybe Wolverine. But Moon Knight beats him in the Hurwitz run. So that's, you know, what do you...
Yeah. Well, there's people like Batroc, the Leaper, as well.
Batroc I thought would be a good one. Yeah,
that'd be an interesting one because it's, you know, it's martial arts and it's his savate kicks and things like that, and it's, you know, but then it's also, when you read a lot of Batroc as well, he's a bit more like, he's a bit prettier, if that makes sense. Like, his style, it seems to be, he'd rather kick you in the back and run off rather than take you one-on-one. And, you know, if he's fighting someone like Moon Knight who's going to take his kicks and keep coming, he's going to be a bit more, I don't know if I want to fight this dude. I'm going to get out of here, you know, that sort of thing.
This dude that's got like cestises on his knuckles and as a, you know, proclivity to rip faces off. I think you're kind of working on a different level. I was thinking like Karnak as well, but Karnak he's got that kind of thing, right, where he knows the weak points, and so that could probably
more of a power than anything, and that's just sort of
that would negate any fighting.
Yeah, exactly, and it's, you know, that's one of those ones where he'll hit you right in the right spot, and your knee will explode, and you won't be able to fight anyway. So if he doesn't want to kill you, and if he wants to kill you, he'd hit you in the neck, and your artery in your neck explodes, and you're dead. So
Well, I mean, interesting point as well. It did say in the wiki thing, I didn't put it down here, but apparently, Moon Knight knows all those pressure points as well, so he can do all that kind of special stuff. Look, the other things I can think of, maybe Hawkeye as well. He can fight well. Some people. I mean, let's go to. There's a bit of feedback here. Andrew, so maybe we'll go through, see what the loonies think as well, and maybe they throw out a couple of names to us. So do you want to, if you've got the prompt sheet up, would you mind, let's just alternate between some posts, right?
Yeah.
So I'll kick off because it's nice and short. So from our Facebook group, Phil, Drop King Phil, he says, I think Daredevil could take him. I think we've discussed that. I think I think that's a no-brainer. I think it's you put Daredevil up with Elektra. Like, Elektra's meant to be like a master assassin as well. There's no way that I don't think Moon Knight can beat her.
No, exactly. And as we know, Daredevil can take an ass kicking as well. So
yes, exactly. He'll give as much.
Next one was David Finn, or I thought David Finch, and I was like, oh, here we go. But no, it's David Finn. I think MK could out hustle Cyclops in a fight, put him down like the whiny bitch he is.
Oui.
Yeah. Cap would be a lot tougher. Black Widow, that would be interesting. I say that's a 50-50 fight. MK would need to dig deep. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I think Black Widow would be a real tough one. I think people underestimate her most of the time too.
Oh, yeah. I think so too. I think she's and you see that well, they built it up in the MCU now as well, but in the comics, she's always been like this deadly kind of character. So, yeah, I would not underestimate her. Yeah, Dave, you say Cap would be a lot tougher. I reckon Cap's, again, probably leaps and bounds ahead of Moon Knight there. I think you could probably lay him out if you wanted to. He's got the acrobatic gymnastic skills of Moon Knight. He's also peak human. And regardless of how tough Moon Knight is, I think because didn't Cap beat the hell out of the Punisher as well. So
yeah, in Civil War after he killed two guys. I can't remember who they were, but yeah, and then he kicked the ever living you know what out of him. So
yeah, so that's I think that's a no brainer. Kyle Carr says, personally, I'd look to Daredevil. I think that fight would be far more even than some people are willing to admit. Both have boxing, that's true, and martial arts in their repertoire. Both have proficiency in staves, nunchucks, and truncheons, and both can take sheer hell before going down. Yeah, so there are a lot of parallels between these two. It is a little bit unfair. Daredevil's got the heightened senses. Regardless, he hasn't got super strength or super speed, but he is agile to the point of, I think, one of the Stan Lee powers is got, in the official Marvel handbook for Daredevil, he's got this, they can't explain it, this, attuneness with balance that no other humans can have or something. So
would explain it. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's got a few, advantages there, but rightly so, Kyle. I mean, I reckon they are kind of, they're pretty much cut from the same cloth in that regards what they can do.
Michael Snowden said Shang-Chi, Danny, I'm assuming that's Iron Fist, Elektra, Daredevil, Black Widow, Colleen Wing, yeah. Bullseye are all above him, but I think he'd get a few hits in. Yeah, I would agree with that too. Like has been said, he'll take two punches to land one. I'd say he takes out Punisher hand to hand. He's probably about that level, just above. Yeah, I'd agree with a lot of that. The Colleen Wing, she's an elite martial artist, as is Danny.
That's true.
Bullseye is an interesting one. I think that's more. I don't know how hand to hand he is, but if he's throwing stuff, then he's he's the best out there. But I don't know how good his hand to hand combat is.
Yeah, I don't know. You're right. I don't know as well. He hasn't. You're right. I mean, I can't because I like to consider myself a bit of a Daredevil fan, but I can't recall him being having fighting prowess like Daredevil or Elektra. Interesting. I was thinking about Bullseye, but he was also in the Benson run as well, with Mark Teixeira. So we did get a bit of an outcome there. But I mean, rightly so, hand to hand, I'd say probably maybe Moon Knight could probably take him. You're right about, Colleen Wing, I'd agree that as well. Misty Knight, what do you reckon about Misty? I mean...
Yeah, I think she has the advantage with her arm.
Yeah,
with her, but true. I think otherwise she's up there because she's trained with Danny and she's trained with Colleen, and so she's probably up there. She's probably a bit more of a people would underestimate her as well, I think.
And Punisher as well, for sure. So Vincent Mott, he says, one of the things I like about Moon Knight is precisely that he's not among the best, which I think I agree as well, which makes his fights even more intense. I prefer street-level vigilante rather than overpowered character versus overpowered character. Yeah, I mean, me too. I think that's why we both love kind of Mooney.
Yep, agreed. Yeah. Jordan Hegarty, I mean, I guess Galactus could beat him. Yeah, you're probably right. Yep.
Excellent. Thank you, Jordan. Jordan's one of the Patronis.
Love it.
For sure. But you never know. I mean, Squirrel Girl beat Galactus, so who's to say Moon Knight can't? And Moon Knight loves going against the heavyweights. He goes up against Kang, he goes up against Count Nefaria, so bring on Galactus, I say. Dwayne Fletcher, I always believe that Moon Knight and Cap spared each other, maybe during their military days. Seems Cap always respected Moon Knight, and I figured that would be the reason they got along, because Cap typically shouldn't like Moon Knight for his brutal combat style. Dwayne, look, I agree as well. I think there was a bit of interaction between them in the Houston run, where Cap comes and sees Moon Knight.
The Civil War,
The Civil War. There is I think he spelled it out. There is a respect there, but I think Cap totally shuns some of the actions that Moon Knight does. So he's lost a bit of respect there. But no. Yeah.
J.A. Cunningham, I think he falls in the high middle range of hand-to-hand combatants in the 616. It also depends on which Moon Knight we are discussing and which powers he may or may not have at any given time. Mm-hmm. It's easy to argue that many could take him, and to understand why it's valid to make the argument, but my man beat Deadpool in a sword fight. He beat Iron Fist in a fist fight. He was single-handedly a thorn in Kang's side. He also won against Count Nefaria. Until a writer sticks with him for a long time and can agree what, if any, powers he has, this is a forever question. Yeah, I'd agree with that too. Yeah,
absolutely as well. I mean, if you're alluding to that Iron Fist fight, I kind of disregard Age of Khonshu, when it comes to hand-to-hand, because like he got super amped up there for those issues. It was an anomaly compared to the classic Moon Knight that we know. But absolutely right, J.A. Deadpool as well. He did kind of give Kang a run for his money, although it wasn't really a full-on kind of traditional fight, and Cat Nefaria as well. So, but even his own rogues gallery, Morpheus, massively powered.
And my favourite of the Moon Knight villains too.
I
love the stories because again the horror side of me. Yeah. I just want more Morpheus. I want heaps of it, and not the Morpheus we saw in the more recent run. I can't remember who the writer was, but
Max Bemis.
Not that Morpheus. I like the traditional Morpheus.
I recently reread Fist of Khonshu #3 with that Morpheus, and that is a cracker of a story. With Morpheus, and like, oh man, I think that's my favourite Morpheus story. That one is quite. And now we've just got a few here from Instagram. How do you pronounce this? Mateuson Tristan. Yep. We'll go with that.
I'll give you that one. Yeah.
He says, I think he can give some people a good run for their money. Would be able to beat Cap in a one-on-one? Probably not. But with planning and surprise attacks, he was able to drop most of the Avengers in the one-on-one blitzkriegs during Age of Khonshu, and refer to my last comments there. As far as straight humans go, I think he's up near the front. But if you add powers, either mutant or otherwise, he starts to get pushed to the back. Of course, I think once the powers come in, like he's not going to beat Colossus. he's not going to beat Spider-Man. No. But full on, that's why I kind of wanted to constrict it to hand combat. The skill-wise as well. I think he's up there, but I think, as we've mentioned before, there are a fair few that, are way above him, I think. Yeah. Yeah,
for sure. Mike Langs, Black Widow, I feel like he'd give her a run for her money. Cyclops, though, wait, didn't Daredevil give him a pretty sweet beating once upon a time?
Thanks, Mike. Did he? I was trying to think about that. And there's a mensch run with the Jester and Daredevil, but
that's the only one I remember, because I remember it ends with the two of them laughing in the last panel, which is very rare for both characters.
If it's not that, it might be Shadowland. But then you're looking at you're looking at a souped up Daredevil. I can't remember.
And the less said about Shadowland, the better, I think, too.
Moving on. No, but you're right. I mean, Cyclops, I reckon you could take Cyclops. So Craig.R says, I believe he could beat Cyclops, somewhat to be able to keep up with Black Widow, but ultimately lose. And he can definitely beat, I guess that's Hawkeye.
Yeah.
Not Noah Hawley, not the showrunner.
No. He'd beat him too.
He'd probably beat him as well.
We'll find out he's some wicked martial artist now that would take it.
Exactly.
Yep. Make Mine Moon Knight, which is a great username. He can definitely take out Cyclops. Cyclops ain't no slouch, but MK would win. Black Widow might be a bit tougher, but he'd probably win that too. He's just tougher. That's his real power, being one tough, durable son of a gun. He's relentless. He's a maniac, a lunatic. He also has conviction in what he's doing and fighting for. And I think, we did say that. We were talking about that before, that he can take a beating. He can take a butt kicking and keep on going. And, it's the same thing that Punisher has. It's the same thing that Cap has. It's I could do this all day sort of thing. He has that as well. The intestinal fortitude.
Yeah, I love it. No, absolutely. He's a few of them, and you're naming them there, and so granted there are a few. You could also say Spider-Man as well with I can't remember that issue, but with a whole building under him and lifting it up. But these we're talking about, the prime heroes here, and if Moon Knight's part of that, then all to him. So, so thank you so much, Loonies, for all of that feedback. It is interesting. I mean, let's not end it there. If there are any other characters that you can think of that might be a good, I mean, as Andrew mentioned, Night Thrasher's a great one. I think that's a good idea. Misty Knight, a bit offhand there. Like Mockingbird, I'm thinking even as well. Mm-hmm. She's got truncheons. Let us know what you think. But it's definitely worth, I don't know, just a bit of fun, just to see where Mooney lies compared to everyone else. Now, Andrew, before I want to get to the spectacles, I wanted to just jump into the Nightline. So we actually got a couple of just bits of feedback from past episodes and stuff. Mm-hmm. So if we can read these out, that'd be cool. Yeah. So do you want to take the first one?
Yep. This is on episode 224, Frenchie's Flight. Great focus on our beloved Jean-Paul Duchamp. Such a quintessential character to the Moon Knight ensemble, and so tragic that such a trusty and steadfast comrade is rewarded only to suffer so much, simply by being that close to the blast radius of Mark's cursed path. Do you think in the Disney Plus series they will use the moniker of Frenchie or not? I'm thinking they'll lose the nickname and he'll just go with Jean-Paul or just Duchamp.
Yeah, thank you. So that's from CMK7. Beep, boop, beep, boop, boop. That's from Chris. Thank you so much, Chris, from YouTube. And Andrew, just to let you know, so last episode we did just a bit of a spotlight on Frenchie, in particular the Houston run and the Benson run, where he comes out and basically I reckon like that's a really cool arc for Frenchie because they really got into it. They got into his partnership with Rob. And they got through, he actually his journey paralleled that of Mark, in the bottom. Basically, they ended up, there's a really dark page, which I totally forgot about, where Frenchie contemplates suicide, that sort of stuff. His boyfriend gets beaten up, all that sort of stuff. So, really interesting, stuff to, we're talking about Frenchie before, and this is one of the reasons I'd love to see Frenchie on the TV show. Yeah. He's got so much to give there. But no, thank you, Chris. As for, I don't know, what do you think, the moniker? Do you reckon they'll use Frenchie, or do you reckon they'll go?
I think it depends. I honestly think that there's really no Moon Knight without Frenchie. He's the butler to that other character we mentioned before. I think he keeps him in line, keeps him as sane as possible, but also is there as backup. And you see it in that Houston and run there where, or is it that run when one of the woman who runs the diner, one of her kids takes over and he uses the machine guns from the copter and shoots a bunch of people, and Moonlight's like, what the hell are you doing? Frenchie would never do this. He's here for backup, but not that kind of backup. And so I think Mark doesn't realize how much he needs Frenchie. Like even in that Houston run, he says to him, I need you. And Frenchie's like, nah, I'm sorry. We've done enough. You've treated people like, not very well. And we need to, we need to part ways. But I think Mark realizes that he needs Frenchie more than anybody else in his life.
Oh yeah, he's such a complex character, Frenchie, and on top of that, his relationship with Mark, because there is this. We discussed it in the last episode. There is almost like a brotherly love between the two. It's kind of like brothers in arms. They've been mercs. They've gone through some crap, and so they probably give each other's life. But at the same time, Frenchie knows how destructive Mark is, how he's ruined like Frenchie's life, how he kind of ruins Marlene's, and how he wanted to protect his partner Rob from Mark, and you kind of see Rob drawn into this world of Mark Spector, and he eventually gets kind of physically and maybe emotionally beaten as well. So I mean, it's great. It's a great character. So I do hope we do see him on the TV show. Now also as well, sorry. Adam Prine, I had a look back, our WordPress, our website, from WordPress. Adam had left a comment there. Sorry, I don't usually check those comments, but it did pop up on the email. So this is a little while back when, shortly after we interviewed Jed McKay. Said, I love the interview with Jed McKay. I'm even more excited about the series now. I really like where it sounds like he's going with it. A return to vigilantism, supernatural villains, self-contained stories that lead to an overarching climax. I'm pumped. My LCS permanently closed due to the pandemic, but I've got the John Romita Jr. variant ordered. I hope you have that and maybe potentially a couple more. He was my favorite artist as a teenager. I mean, yeah. And this is the first time I've ever seen him draw Moon Knight. Keep up the good work. The guests you are able to swing amaze me. Thank you so much, Adam. Look, everyone, variants are not for everyone, so I didn't want to throw shade on you there, Adam. But Andrew, you've picked up issue 1, I take it as well.
Not yet.
Not yet.
No, just probably about 4 or so months ago. I actually cut all my floppy issues that I was picking up. We just sort of, it was getting to a point where not so much Moon Knight or things like that, but other ones, they were just sort of stacking up. And I wasn't reading them, and I was like, I've got a Marvel Unlimited subscription, so I read most of my books through there for the Marvel ones, and then the other stuff I pick up in trade. But I have got one on order. A friend of mine works at a shop in Melbourne, and I sort of passed on to him to put one aside for me, so the next time I can jump in to see him, hopefully sooner rather than later, with us being in lockdown again, I can duck in and pick it up because I am really looking forward to it. And it was sort of, I stopped all my books, and I think about 3 weeks later they announced the new Moon Knight book.
Oh, no.
So it's just the worst timing.
Yeah. Have you been spoiled, or are you still going to go into it?
No, nothing.
Awesome.
Yeah,
good,
I haven't heard anything about it, which is good. So, I'm looking forward to really diving in without knowing much about it.
Nice. And also, you just reminded me, and I keep on forgetting to do this on the show, but I really like to promote LCSs, just because they're the grassroots, they're bricks and mortars of the comic book industry. And I know we're both in lockdown as well, Andrew as well, but, is there an LCS you'd like to give a shout out to? And I'll put the details in the show notes. Well,
a good friend of mine, Tristan Jones, who is a comic book writer and artist in his own right, has worked on, Ghostbusters and does a lot of work for he works with I think it's Nika Toys, who do the Alien toys. He does a lot of the box art for them.
Oh, wow.
And he's just did a short story in the back of a detective comics for DC. So very, very talented man. But he works at Minotaur in Melbourne. And,
Minotaur,
and so they've just moved to a new location. And I think, like a lot of shops, they're probably doing a little bit tougher with the pandemic. But but even like we said before, like you've probably said before, is that in these times too, if you can order stuff online from these shops, it really does help them out. And
absolutely,
the grassroots, the people boots on the ground at these shops who just need that help. We really need to keep them there because a lot of them won't be around after all this is said and done.
Oh yeah, I've seen some posts where they're just going, we're shutting up shops, some stores. So it's real sad. But so what I hope to do each episode is at least each once a week is to at least shout out an LCS. I'll put the details in our show notes. And if you are Australian or if you are wherever these recommendations come, if you're near there, definitely go and definitely think about supporting your local comic book store. Well, I think that about wraps it, Andrew, for this episode. Are you willing to come back later in the week, perhaps, and chat about a Moon Knight comic?
I'm always up for talking Moon Knight.
Excellent stuff. Oh, before we go, of course, any final like works? Oh, actually, sorry, my mind is jumping here, Andrew. You said Tristan Jones, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's a writer, but he also does art, right?
Yeah.
He does phenomenal alien art.
Yes, that's him. Yeah.
Oh, he is the Tristan Jones.
Yeah.
Holy hell. Well, next time you contact him, can you please just, say there's someone fanboying over him, because he's a fantastic artist. And I came across one of his tweets, and it was actually to do with Greg Land and how he ripped off some of Tristan's art. But he's an amazing artist. Anyway, so
he's brilliant. Yeah, absolutely brilliant artist.
Yeah, give him props if you can.
Yeah, for sure.
So anything that you'd like to plug now? Any upcoming projects? Anything that you'd like to recommend, even for reading?
Well, like we were talking about Cul-de-sac before, available on Comixology. It's $3.99, I think, on Comixology. Full color, hand painted art. We do have the print copies. I'm on all the social medias, so if anyone is interested, just hit me up on there, and I can get a copy out to them. We have been working on a sequel, a follow up to it, set in the '60s at a drive-in.
Cool.
But unfortunately, with shutdown and COVID and everything, and Will's a teacher by trade, so it's sort of fallen by the wayside a little bit because he's dealing with so much with the students and things like that, and dealing with schoolwork and things and other projects just to keep stuff afloat. So it's sort of, we have got, most of it's written, and he has started some art, but it's sort of, it'll be one of those things where it's done when it's done. And, we're in no rush. The world's not in a rush at the moment, so why should we be?
Yeah, it's absolutely well said. Well, there will be contact details in the show notes for getting in touch with Andrew, as well as links to Comixology where you can find Cul-de-sac. All of that will be in the show notes for you. Well, having said that, loonies, that about wraps it. But actually, hey, Ray, as promised, I think I put this up. Earlier this afternoon. We're going to go out with this episode with the next episode of our serial adventure. Now, this is The Rise of Set. It's season 2. This is the second episode. They generally come out once a month, Andrew. There's no rush, so I was a bit lax here. End of June was the season opener. And so we've got episode 2, for you now. So a nice juicy one. It picks up at the Flogo water treatment plant where Peter, the leader, had recently poisoned the city's water supply and murdered one of his unsuspecting colleagues, Daryl. Detective French investigates the grisly findings at the reservoir and discovers it's not all that it seems. Meanwhile, back up in the skies, High Priest Khonshu, Rebecca, and Dr Hex prepare to escape the swarm of demons. But is Dr Hex harbouring a secret? A secret that may well put all our heroes at jeopardy at the Safehouse. So we're going to throw to that now. Andrew, a huge thank you once again. We'll catch you a bit later on in the week.
Sounds good to me.
Excellent. All right, loonies, here it is, The Rise of Set, episode 2. Catch you a bit later in the week.
Detective Chief Inspector, thanks for coming down.
Sergeant Werribee, so what have we got?
One victim, male, mid-30s, found at the base of the dam.
Who discovered him?
One of the workers at the plant. Saw him caught up against one of the grates.
I'm assuming then he wasn't touched by any of the workers?
That's right. They called us straight away. Our local crew took all the necessary precautions to make sure nothing was disturbed on the body.
Has a forensic investigator been?
Detective French?
Oh God, what is she doing here?
Delaney is your chief forensics officer on this one, ma'am. She's been here all morning.
Detective French. Interesting to see you on the case. Here to bungle another one?
Save it, Delaney. You and I know that the rise in crime lately has stretched our resources.
Well, apparently so.
Male victim, mid-30s, dead in dam. What have you got?
It's not good. Mr. Daryl Munt, employee of the Flogo Water Company, who also owns this treatment plant. Time of expiration a little over 16 hours, it looks like.
Any immediately apparent markings?
Nothing that leaps out. Lungs full of water, most likely post-mortem. And cause of death resulting from a broken neck, which I imagine came from the impact of falling from up there. Death was instantaneous.
You see this, Delaney? Look at his clothes. Necktie, expensive shoes. I take it walking up there in the gangway was not part of his job description. Also...
Suicide, then?
It looks as though it may be more of a push than a jump. That's human skin under the fingernails there.
I've only just managed my initial assessment of...
Bag it, Sergeant.
Right away, Detective.
Delaney, I'd like to take a look up on that bridge. If Mr. Munt was pushed, I'm certain that bridge can tell us a story.
Eyewitnesses say he was alone when he jumped. We even have a statement already from...
Sergeant, I'm going to need a copy of any CCTV footage in the 50-meter radius of the crime scene. I'll need to take a look at Mr. Munt's belongings and his workspace. Also, if you can ask around if Mr. Munt had any grievances with any of the other workers at Flogo, we may then start to understand why anyone would want to harm or kill Mr. Munt.
Detective, my boys at Forensics are up on the bridge now.
And they probably carried out everything you've asked of them. But here's the difference, Delaney. They are doing a thorough search as briefed by you. And from my experience, that is both inadequate and foolhardy.
You...
The only way in which to get to the bottom of this is to cover more than what the textbooks tell you to do. The sooner you can show me where on the bridge you think Mr. Munt was pushed, the quicker we can conclude this ridiculous charade where we act as if we can work with each other.
Right, that's it. You're on your own. I'm done.
Delaney!
Let her go, Sergeant. She's too caught up in her own ego to be of any help to anyone.
But Detective, if you lose Delaney, and us being short-staffed as it is...
I know. I may need to call in some favors.
There's also just one other thing.
Oh?
I don't know why Delaney didn't mention this to you. But the eyewitness account... The witness did not say Daryl was alone.
Why would Delaney blatantly lie?
Well, it's because of what the witness said.
And what was that?
That Mr. Munt was up there on the gangway. That he wasn't alone. That he was talking to, what did he call it? He was talking to a serpent man.
Sergeant, I need to see that eyewitness. There's enough shit happening around the city. I just don't know what this all means.
Mark's not going to be pleased about this.
Tell him he can bill me for this one.
Doctor, we'll be alright. We've made it. We may have lost the moon jet, but once we strap ourselves in and punch in the coordinates, the escape pod will take us to the others.
Rebecca, thank you for back there. I've not been feeling myself.
Your arm, it's blackened.
I need you to do something for me.
John?
I need you to get my body to the safe house and lock it up. As secure as you can. Can you do that?
Of course, but why?
I fear my adventure has only just begun.
Doctor! John! Right. Engage coordinates from the last pre-saved destination. Full thrusters at max. Entry stabilizers to 7 clicks. Disengage mother vessel at 3, 2, 1, mark. Let's just hope we haven't already lost a teammate.
affiliated characters, stories, and events are properties of Marvel Characters Incorporated. Materials used and discussed within the podcast are intended for critique and review purposes only under the fair dealing concept of the current Copyright Act. The views, information, or opinions expressed during the podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of the copyright owners.